Hello, welcome to the Honest Wargamer. I'm your host Rob, and we're live for round 2 of the Facehammer Grand Tournament here at the Element Games Superstore. I think that's what it's called. But I'm joined today by a man who I've been a fan of for years, Mr. Benjamin Sava. Hello, sir.
Hello, how's it going?
Very excited to have you doing the commentary, as I think people all around the world will be. Are you excited to give it your first try?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I mean, I know a lot about Warhammer. Spent a lot of time thinking about Warhammer, so I think I can talk about Warhammer. I'm nervous, but yeah, I'm excited. We've got some good games lined up for round 2.
Yes, yeah, there's some big matchups. When our man Owen comes back, he tells you about all of the upsets from the round before. We saw a lot of... So last week we obviously saw you at the LGT do quite well with your 9 Stormfiend meme list. Yeah, you know. However, we've seen quite a few of them lose round 1 here. What do you think about that?
I think both of them lost because they don't have a 1-drop. I think the mixed list is better overall, but I think the 1-drop gives you an edge in games like Slanesh and Fire Slayers, which is what Tony and I think it was Andy Bryan both lost because they played Fire Slayers and Slanesh and got outdropped. And I think the 1-drop really gives you the edge in those matchups because you can afford to give away the first turn, you can play way more defensively, and then you can counterpunch. The army isn't an alpha strike at all, it's a counterpunch army, and yeah, because they didn't have the option to do that, they both lost. So, yeah, it's interesting to see how they go on for the rest of the weekend. But it seems 9 Stormfiends have arrived anyway.
Yeah, it looks like people definitely think it's part of the game. But I think those early doors losses from those, especially I would argue power players, realistically, they might decide that that's not what they want to do in the future.
Yes.
So I think that's going to be real interesting going forward. Our matchup that we have today is exciting. So the scenario will be playing 3 places of arcane power.
Yep.
It's always an interesting battle plan and tough to be capitalised on. And I think both of these 2 armies are going to have a tough time capitalising on it because they haven't got a big stompy monster that's also a character. So what they do have, we've got Gloomspite Gits, and we have Stormcast. But like
Eternals.
2016 Stormcast.
Yeah, we've gone even 1 year back from last week at the LGT where it was a lot of 2017 armies back to... Retributors, Concussors, Judicators, Liberators.
I don't think, by the way,
the original starter set.
I don't think Concussors were even ever a thing.
No, yeah.
Retributors definitely were a thing.
Retributors were.
They were so a thing, but Concussors were never a thing. But there are lots of 2 Concussors. We'll talk about that more in the future. Have you got any, just based off that information alone, do you think you're going to predict anything?
I think it is an interesting matchup because both, apart from Rich's Spider, who is a big unit who can sit on an objective, and the Spiders also have minuses to hit. Then they won't be easy to remove off if he goes out there and puts it. But I think Richie plays quite defensively with his Spider. He described it as like his quarterback. So he'd sit at the back and wait until his turn to strike. And it means that they're both left with very small heroes who normally want to be sitting at the back. You know, you don't want any of your Stormcast heroes up the front doing any damage. The same with the Gloomspite. This Gloomspite small heroes, they're all at the back, they're all buff heroes, they're support characters, so they don't want to sit on objectives, and if they do, they can easily get picked off. You know, like a unit of Judicators could shoot off a Grot hero in 1 turn.
Which I'm sure Kieran's hoping for.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. So it'd be interesting to see who takes the first turn and whether they decide to get onto the objectives first, or whether they decide to maybe try and clear off a couple of the heroes and then try and score in late game. So I think, yeah, it's going to be an interesting matchup. They've both got options, yeah.
Good. I'm very excited. Now, I know for a fact that we have our infield reporter, Owen, who's going to bring you all the information that happened in the round previous. There was some big goss. The guys on the tabletop are still explaining their army list and deploying, so we'll get to that after. But here's Owen letting us know all of the amazing things that happened in round 1.
Thank you very much, Rob. Yes, well, round 1 was obviously blighted slightly by those clan rats in the wiring, so apologies to all the viewers out there. But I think we're back. Fingers crossed. We're crossing everything here at Honest Wargamer Central. So yeah, hopefully the stream will be tickety-boo, no problems. So rounding up round 1. Looking at the tables that we focused on, there were some big wins. Unfortunately, both my Welsh bros went down. So Alex Bruce, he was hanging in there the whole way, all the way through to turn 5. It was one of the last games to finish. But Dan Ford's Plague Monks really did grind out that victory, and he took an 18-2 victory. So yeah, Dan progressed through towards the top tables. In the Battle of the TOs, again, it was even Stevens going into turn 5, Ben Curry versus Chris Tomlin. And somehow, I'm not doubting his skills, but Chris managed to get that priority and, grind out a little 1-point win. So Ben wasn't happy. It was not cool, but never mind. We move on and we go to the next round. Chris is... I'm not sure who he's got this round, but he's around. I'll find that out for you. Moving down then, table 38 was Steve Curtis and Dan Mitchell. Steve took a lot of those pterodons off early, as we discussed. The summoning came obviously from the Slan, who couldn't be touched in the corner, and that did keep him in the game and keep him in the points. But eventually, Steve's superior movement and also, the class of Steve's game, he got an 18-2 win there as well and progressed forward. Big win on table 36. Tony Moore, obviously a ETC champion with England this year in Serbia. He took a loss, round 1 against Carl Breakspear. Carl, normally known for running Nighthorn, I believe. He's bringing Fire Slayers. Little ginger dudes are smashing it up. All through round 1, there were a lot of wins for the Fire Slayers. He took a 15-5 win there and progressed. My pick, Toby. He thinks he overextended himself early, and he did have a good lead on points, and he got both his secondaries early on. But that Slanesh summoning, we all know how dangerous that can be, and JP just brought so much more back onto the table, and it was a late game win for JP. He just ran out of bodies. Once the rats were gone, and he's only got the Vermin Lords, then it sort of, the tide was turning turns 3 to 4, so it really was all over. Laurie, my tree bro, I could see he wasn't doing well because he was down. When Laurie's down. Ricky, the resilience of those Fire Slayers really did pay off. And, Hearthguard Berserkers versus Kernoth Hunters, they're going to win the grind. So Ricky got a 19-1, and he's gone up to, he's on one of the top tables now. Luke Morton, Byron's pick. Well, obviously, Byron's a better judge of Warhammer player than me because his pick actually won. Took out Christian Moore, 18-2. Other notable results, Richie got an 18-2, and obviously that's put him on table 1 of the stream. Andy Hughes lost by a point against Change Host. Mark Wildman got the win. That pretty much wraps up the headline stories from round 1. Going into the matchups for this round, obviously on the stream, we've got Richie with his Gits. But let me just sort my hands out. I need one more, but one moment. There we go. Look at that. Multitasking. As we say, Ricky went forward. His Fire Slayers taking on Andy Talbot's Stormcast on table 9. That's one we're going to watch. 80 Max in the building. He's up against Ben Johnson. Slanesh versus Gits. Donal with his 20-0 takes on Alex Ghostarm Skaven. We've then got Dan Bradshaw Skaven. He's now playing Tom Maudsley. So it's Tom's list, played by Dan against Tom. He's not happy. It's 3 places. He's going to have to try and shift those Vermin Lords somehow. Good luck, Tom. Tuggy, he's got a nosebleed. He's on table 7. He's now facing Mike Wilson's Slanesh, so we've got a pact. He is going to kill every single Greater Demon of Chaos, obviously apart from Khorne. So he's rolled from Tzeentch into Slanesh. All we need to do is find him a Nurgle opponent, and he'll have the full set. Steve Curtis, that's going to be a battle of 2 gents. Table 13, we've got Steve versus Paul Buckler. So Feck against Seraphon. My pick, Toby, I'm going to say he's going to go for the big submarine. He did pick up some points round 1, so he's not completely out of it. He might get a podium if he can go 4-1. He's rolling into Baz's Wanderers, the 1-drop Waystone Pathfinder Wanderers. He's just got to survive. We'll see if the ward save, the Blessing of the Horned Rat, can hold up against all of that Wanderer shooting. Laurie, he's got a mixed order fight against Thomas Founds. JP, who bested Toby in the last round, he's rolling into some Gits. And James Tinsdale, he's been practicing Slanesh. He was teasing us all he was going to bring Slanesh, and now he has to face Slanesh. So it's his Deepkin against, loads of keepers probably. That's all those Slanesh lists are, aren't they? 3 keepers, and then they just keep coming back. Ugh, I hate that army. Anyway, the room's lively. The boys in the booth are lively. Darren's ready. I can see him. He's bouncing. So I think it's time to hand back because we need to know what's going on with Richie's deployment. It's probably still going on. So, yeah, back to the boys in the booth.
Hello, we are the boys in the booth. Album coming soon. Thank you very much, Owen. It's been a pleasure. So here we are. Oh, it's the off. Ben, are you excited? Benjamin, sorry. Are you excited?
I'm very excited, yep. We can just see Richie is on the top of the board here. He's player red, and he is deploying some grots now.
He is. So, yeah, it's time to talk about the lists, I think, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, let's do it.
So let's talk about Richie's list, if you'd like, and what's in it.
Okay, so he's got the Loon Boss, who is his general, and has Dead Shouty, which means he can use his command ability once per game for free. And the command ability there is units wholly within 24, I think it is, do mortals on a 6. So I think he's going to be looking to put that on one of the big units of Stabbers, of which he has 2. There's a unit of 40 and a unit of 60. And to buff them up, he's got 5 Spore Splatter Fanatics and 6 Sneaky Snufflers. Both of those will be given +1 attack to those Stabbers, who then obviously inherently get pluses to wound, which doesn't affect the command ability. They're just going off on modified 6s, but it does... But it does buff them. They can get down to a 2 up to wound. So, once you've got 3 attacks each on each of those goblins, they're fighting in and they're fighting in 2 to 3 ranks. They are armed with spears, aren't they? Yeah, spears. So you're getting a lot of attacks out of there, consistent damage, which he'll be able to use to clear off any screens and get to the heroes behind. He also has a Fungoid Cave Shaman with the Great Green Spite, which is the spell that does more mortal wounds depending on how many grots are around him. So it does d6 if you select a unit of 20. Which again will be really good at picking off small Stormcast heroes, can potentially one-shot them with a spell in a turn. We've got the Madcap Shaman, who has the Moonface Mommet, which is a small doll that he... Oh, actually, I've forgotten what that does. I did just check that. But he's got Itchy Nuisance, which is the spell that makes unit fight last. And then he has a Web Spinner Shaman and a Web Spinner Shaman on a Ragnarok Spider, who both have the spell Sneaky Distraction, which is a -1 to hit bubble within any models within 12 inches. And yes, he gets +1. The Web Spinner Shaman gives +1 to cast. So as long as those shamans are under the light of the Bad Moon, they can be +2 to cast. So those spells are going off a little bit more reliably.
4 endless spells is pretty devastating, realistically.
Yes, 4 endless spells in the list, as well as 2 shooters, 2 units of 20 shooters, which will just probably be used as screens. And as we said, the Sneaky Snufflers and the and then he's got the 4 endless spells. He's got his Aether Void Pendulum, Geminids, Malevolent Moon, and Quicksilver Swords. Oh, and Scuttletide, so 5. So there's lots of mortal wounds available there, which obviously is the bane of Stormcast.
Yeah. I think Scuttletide is going to be the danger, realistically, going forward. Like it's infinite range, effectively. Less so. Geminids still also incredible. Less so the racist swords. Oh, they're not in there. Oh, they are, but not obviously useful against, not racist towards Stormcast.
No.
So I think the mortal wound output that he potentially got is obviously going to come from those stabbers when they get buffed up.
And then you can see that there's a piece of terrain right here, and a piece of terrain right here, which is where the Scuttletide would deploy. So I reckon all 3 of those objectives he can reach with Scuttletide. So if he wants to sit any of his heroes on any of those, they're going to be in range of Scuttletide. So that's a really good spell for this mission with the map as it is.
Yeah. I just want to say a big thank you to Velatron in the chat there, who I saw donate 10,000 bits to the show. See the One Game is the best. Wow. Great quality as always, and loving the fact that so many folks in the community are getting involved. Great job, Darren, Owen, and Benjamin. Thank you. Wish I could be at FHGT and go Stormcast. Velatron, big Stormcast fan. Appreciate that, loads. That's super lovely of you. And then Doom King Tristan, rooting for Darren. So let us know in the chat who you're rooting for, whether or not it's Richie or Kieran. Obviously, Richie from Just Play, a well-known character already. Kieran, by the way, a little bit of an undersung hero in the Age of Sigmar community. I'm a huge fan of this man. He's super kind, super lovely.
Yeah, he's a real gent. I played him a couple of years ago at Blackout, my first ever Blackout, and that was just off the back of him being in, I think it was one of the first iOS Masters. He used to play Iron Jaws back then, and I think it was him and Chris Tomlin were both representing Iron Jaws before all of the books got released and Iron Jaws became Tier 3. They used to be quite good. And Kieran used to play them really, really well. He's a really technical player, plays a really tight game, thinks a lot about board control, movement. So, and as we know that about Richie as well, it should be a good, tight game here, I think.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be really interesting. I think those casts on the endless spells are going to be what the game maybe comes down to, realistically. Yes. But should we see what's inside Kieran's list, and then what you? We'll look inside Kieran's list, and then see what we think is it's made of.
Okay, so he has got just 2 heroes, actually, so that's going to make this mission very difficult for him. 2 5-wound heroes, 1 Knight Venator, 1 Lord Castellant, who is the general. He has the Translocation Prayer. There's 3, sorry. Lord Relictor, who has the Translocation Prayer, Lord Castellant, who has Dauntless Hunters, and the Artifact God Beast Plate, which is just the generic artifact and trait for Astral Templars, which is an odd choice. We don't really see it very often. And it's good against monsters, but other than the spider, that's not going to come into play too much in this game. Then he has 5 Judicators, 2 units of 2 Concussors, and 10 Retributors with Star Soul Maces. So as we can see,
old school,
very old school, very starter set. Age of Sigmar.
Is that an insult? You're so starter set. Yeah. Is that like an Age of Sigmar basic?
Yeah, exactly.
they get their pumpkin spice latte in their starter set, and then they just start playing Warhammer. Devastating.
That's his list. It's very simple, but I think Mixed Arms Stormcast lists are quite good in the meta at the moment, because we're seeing a lot of lists that are really min-maxed, and anytime you can come up against something that is a little bit more balanced, that has a little bit more sort of options on the board, it has things to do in each phase, that does kind of unpick. I know a lot of the lists I play, I actually kind of dread playing Mixed Arms Stormcasts, and he's still got a lot of punch in here. 10 Retributors, although they fallen out of fashion, can still do a lot of damage. And 2 units of Concussors, pretty tough. They can go off and tag the big units of Grots and keep them in place, because Grots can't retreat and charge. So if you kind of tags them on the end, limits the amount of attacks, stops them from moving around the board and creating screens and zoning out those objectives. And the Concussors stop them from piling in as well. So, if you can tag them in, then you're not going to be getting many attacks back. So, you keep them in there, keep them in place. And I don't know it is a tough matchup here for Kieran. He's only got 2 heroes. So I think he doesn't want to overcommit them too soon, because the Endless Spells are just going to get them turn 1. So I think he's going to have to play really defensive. He's going to have to hope that Richie gets onto the objectives early, and he's going to need to take out his heroes as quick as he can. They're all small apart from the spider, who does generate a -1 to hit bubble. So
it's going to be that's going to be a really big deal. Yeah. So Kieran does have the choice for who goes first.
Okay.
So that's going to be important. Both of these players really eschewing the idea that you ever need. We talked a moment ago about the 9 Stormfiends and how important it was to get the 1 drop with them. These players and both armies are like, no, we're only getting as many drops as possible. I think Richie has 14 and Kieran maybe has 13, or it's 11 and 12. 12 and 11. Sorry.
Okay.
Apologies. Thank you to our table boss. So real difference.
Yes, I think at the moment, if you can't get below 4, then it tends not to matter as much anymore, and there is a certain value in creating a higher drop list, because you have more deployment options there to sort of assess where your opponent's going to put his threats, and you can sort of counter deploy there. So I think there is.
Plus your battle line is a great unit in that it's an inherent screen, but it's also an inherent bully unit as well. It's going to score objectives. It can get buffed up by that loon boss and be really scary. Mm-hmm. It's got loads of bodies. It's hard to chew through. You've got command points for days, so you basically are immune to battle shock. It's it's just a real solid army, and I'm surprised that haven't been many players that have capitalised so much on its use. I mean, I'm lucky that I get to play Nathan all the time, so I've had a round of kickings from this army, and I know that it's really, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't see it as often. I think when it came out, it was it suffered from being one of the most balanced books that GW have released, and I think that kind of scared a lot of people off from playing it initially. It's one of those ones where you do have to sit with it for a while to kind of figure out all the little synergies in there and how you're going to implement them. There's no sort of like really obvious builds in the Gloomspite Gits book, so I think a lot of the sort of the top gamers, shied away from it because
the obvious list build players.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
We know who you are, and if you don't know who you are, you're the person we're talking about.
You're probably playing one of my lists.
So let us know who you want to win the chat. Bruce Hammer, you want Stormcast Eternals to win? There we go. I'm excited about that. And Tomb King Tristan, Dad Hammer CG, Stormcast also has cool points for retributions and concussors. Yeah, absolutely. Kieran, and Kieran's army is lovely, actually. It's totally worth looking at.
He's had a lot of time to paint it, hasn't he? Like 3 or 4 years.
I mean, that's also a good point. He's had a long time to give it a paint job, but it does look wonderful.
Wow,
look at that.
Look at that. That is
beautiful. Yeah, those concussors are just fantastic. That's 2 units of 2, but no mess in there.
That is gorgeous, yeah.
Yeah, he's got a great looking army. Big fan of that army.
So I think with him being able to decide, I don't know what he's going to do here, but I would say he probably wants to be giving away that first turn. He wants to try and bait out some of Rich's heroes, and I think what that does is give Richie the option. Well, it gives him the choice of, does he move forward, does he try and claim an objective first turn at the risk of then that unit getting shot off, or does he waste a whole turn of scoring? And obviously the points on this are cumulative, so you want to get onto the objectives as quick as you can, and Rich is going to know that, so he's going to have to deploy something within range to get onto there. I think that the Spider's going to be able to get there with his movement, and any of the characters will be able to get there with the Hand of Gork. But I think if he gets first turn here, he's going to want to get onto at least 1, maybe 2 of those, but then he's going to leave himself open for them getting shot off, or potentially even then the double turn.
Yeah.
But I would say that's the play. If I was Kieran, I would be giving away the first turn here.
I think
not necessarily playing for the double, but
I think the deployment's letting us know that, right? Like this is super safe. It's on the line, but he's not going to go forward in charge. I don't think. I think what he wants is like, you're going to come and jump on these objectives at any point. I think that unit of Grots is going to give him a bit of a nightmare, especially if it gets Hand of Gorked, gets the charge off and goes in. That can be real tough. Also, there's the threat of like an early Geminids coming into his army as well, which could do some work. I think realistically Kieran's up against it, which is why, again, top bloke. He said he might be a bit reticent to play on the stream because it's never the most fun losing on the stream. But I've got to say that I want to say a big thank you to him for doing so. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But although chatting to Richie briefly before the game, he does say that he does tend to turtle up. Like, Richie's a very calculated player, very defensive player, and I don't think he's the kind of person who would risk teleporting off a unit of Grots into his lines there. Although they could go and take a big dent out of it. Like, he wants those bodies for screens. He wants to surround the objectives. He wants to make it more difficult for him to, even if he scores a couple of points early on. He's going to want to zone out those objectives then, so that the Stormcast heroes, who I hope are playing defensively, can't jump on then in the last 2 turns when Rich's heroes are dead.
Yeah, so what you're saying is
bodies,
you're saying Richie's more of a sneaky player, not a brutal player.
Yeah, exactly. Cunning,
more cunning.
Brutal.
Yeah, more cunning. Okay, I think that's going to be interesting to see on the tabletop. Richie's army also, not to call it any names in no way, because Kieran's army obviously looks fantastic as well. It's a pretty little thing. There you go.
He does put a lot of effort in, I think. Richie
I mean,
does,
not only am I lucky enough to be joined by Benjamin Sava of being good at Warhammer fame, I'm also joined by Studio Ersewood, which is Benjamin Sava's painting studio, of being great at painting Warhammer fame. Thankfully, I know how to work a computer, Benjamin, otherwise I wouldn't feel completely emasculated by you as a human being.
Rob, of streaming fame.
I'll tell you what Darren's saying, that he's got none of those 3 skills. So he's good at Warhammer, though.
He is very good at Warhammer.
He's good at Warhammer, really good at Warhammer. Oh, yeah. Everyone in the chat, let me know where you're from, how you're doing, what you're up to. I want to see you live. who you're rooting for. Right, so Kieran is just doing his pre-game movement.
And that's part of the Astral Templars
Yes.
ability, isn't it? Which we don't see very often, so...
Kieran
Ooh.
has gone for the first turn.
Interesting.
So already a switch up from what you were predicting,
Yeah.
Ben. How does it feel? Because this is your first time commentating. I go through this a lot, suggesting what people should do and then watching them not do it.
yeah.
How do you feel? Do you want to go around and have a word?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I've got to tell him he's made the wrong choice there, I think. But we'll see. Let's see what he does with it. I mean, look at this. It's an incredibly defensive deployment. He's got all of his models down here, basically, and a couple of screens. It's going to be interesting to see what he does here, because I don't think he can overcommit. He's got 3 small characters. If he puts any of those on the board now, or any of those on objectives now, they're likely to just get killed by endless spells.
Kieran, wait, someone is unlocking. Oh, are those dice? Are these
Magic the Gathering cards out?
I do not know what they are. There's had some little circular. Oh, brilliant! Thank you so much, Richie. I've actually been looking to buy those. He's got little circular rings so you can see where his characters are.
Oh
my
wow.
God, Richie, I'm going to marry you. If you weren't already married and with a new child, and also probably not after me. Yeah. There you go. Fabuloso.
It's
There
one
you
of
go.
those things, isn't it? You go to tournaments, and every time you go, you kind of say to yourself, I must be more organised for the next time. I really want to get objective markers. I want to get the dice. I want to get...
One more time.
Okay, interesting. So he's on a 2-up save now. The Castellan's Lantern has been put onto himself, which...
So he shined a shiny light upon himself.
Shine a light upon himself.
And that makes his armour the brighter, therefore the tougher?
Yep,
That's
him.
Is that a science or a magic thing?
Yeah, I mean, if it's brighter, they can't see him. The light reflects off, blinds the madcaps. They can't see him. They can't shoot spells at him.
Yeah.
He's
Or
on a
the
2-up
better.
save. Although the madcaps are going to be doing mortal wounds, but that suggests that he's going to be going forward with the Castellan. If he's put it on that and not on one of the bigger units, then he's going to be going forward onto the objectives there, I think.
Okay, so we see an early doors charge. Maybe his plan is to maybe his plan is going to be to get into this unit, and I know he can't pin it back realistically, but just have some deep threat in there, and then try to produce some board space for himself.
Yep.
Potentially, and then just zone out as much as possible. Because that unit of 60 grots is actually fairly unwieldy until they start murdering stuff, and then they're just a threat. So the Castellan has run 6. Those concussors have also moved forward their full amount. Okay, so he's created a screen. It's definitely what he's done. He's got his character
That's
in.
him, just within 3. So
So-
he rolled a 6 on the run roll there, so which he would have needed, I think, to get onto the objective from where he was by that building. The building is also commanding terrain, so he's generated an extra command point there at the beginning of the game for his Castellan being near that. So yeah, he is going all out, it looks like here. His Venator's down here. He's got a long fly move, so he might even potentially go up here, and he's just trying to get 3 points on the board and then
Hold on.
hold on, maybe. Yeah,
Okay.
it's odd. I mean,
Yeah. So yeah, the objectives. So the way arcane power is quite interesting. So you score it when you move on to the objective, and if for any point you ever retreat off the objective, you then lose that particular objective. So pin those grots in with the concussors; they can stop them piling in. Says Dan Hammer CG. That's what he's aiming for.
he can. Yep.
So are we going to see some old school mechanics being brought to the player? Is there some tech from 2016 that we have to remember? I think
Retributors do 2 mortal wounds on a 6.
yeah,
Yeah,
they're not going to go
remember
through
that.
those grots. I
They're
mean,
not
they
gonna
might
go
by
through
turn
grots,
5,
Yeah.
which would be nice, and I'd like to see them eventually get there. But that's not because I think every grot should be dead. But I also do agree with that statement.
Yep.
So the concussors are there. They're eyeing up those grots. Who the thing, Benjamin, that I find hardest is that all of this is immune to battle shock.
Yep.
That is the bit like the Gits army just can't be alphaed.
Yes. Yeah. And then as soon as they start their command point engines revving up, then they're always going to have the CPs to put inspiring presences on their units. So.
The Darren. There we go. Some of the players there at the table, but so tense was the match, so tense was the decision making. They needed some water brought to them almost immediately. Are you ready to get to the stage of prima donna sports stars, Benjamin? And is that because you want to be one?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm going to be on the front line, I think.
Demanding. There we go.
So I think we can't. Although Richie has been helpful and put those little markers on his characters, it is a bit difficult to see in that sea of black. But it does look like he has played fairly defensively with all of his small characters. So
they're here and here. At the back, and there's actually a Ragnarok here, which currently, because it's sort of an odd placement, and I'm sure Richie's precious with his Ragnarok, is actually replaced by Perspex plate at the moment.
Oh, okay, that's it, yeah.
So that is over there, which might be why we've seen this early deployment here on the right-hand flank.
To just block him off from going there.
But I think we might just see. I don't think we're seeing Kieran do what I now affectionately call a lovo, like an early drop. I think what you might be seeing here actually is just screening off the objective.
Yeah, it looks like
a little bit.
Yeah.
But then that also gives him a charge onto the objective. Maybe, I don't know. So maybe he's screening on purpose. Put these here. So he's just put the adjudicators down so he can start shooting into them. So I think it would have been a mistake to have just dropped them on the board at any point anyway, right? That would have been odd.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. And maybe if this is, maybe Kieran was watching his deployment very carefully, watching Rich's deployment. He's seen where he's put his characters. He maybe knows that if he can get a few early points here, the only way he's going to be able to get any of his smaller shamans, who are only 4 or 5 wounds and little to no save, onto the objectives is with the Hand of Gorkspell, which is cast on a 7, so it's not guaranteed, even with the pluses to cast that Gloomspite get. And so he's going to really be looking, Rich is going to be looking to get one of his spider onto this objective, which is where he has screened. So, and he's going to want to do that early doors because, his small characters can be picked off by adjudicators quite easily. And, Kieran's going to go up by 2 points there. Yeah, maybe this is a good play. He hasn't decided to go for all 3. He's kept his Venator here in terrain, which means he's on a 2-up save. So he's
super safe.
Yeah, he's super safe for now, and it gives him then some late game options. So he hasn't.
I imagine we're going to see the Venator shoot at the Ragnarok as well. I imagine. Oh, which character?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So the Star-Fated Arrow, once per battle shot, it's going into.
And it looks like he's just done the regular shot, regular shooting though.
No, so he's hit with the Star-Fated Arrow. I think he's also shooting with something. Oh, we'll find out. The Star-Fated has it.
Okay, so he's rolled the dice for the Eagle as well.
But he saved it. The once per battle arrow. It's not Star-Fated, Armor-Fated. Big shout from the tabletop there. Ill-fated, yeah. Both players shocked. Richie's got to be happy about that. I wonder which one he decided to go for, Darren. Oh, in round 1, Kieran fired that same Star-Fated arrow into a Mangler Squig and did 9 damage round 1. So he was like, it hasn't let me down, but now he's let him down half the time.
Can't kill a 4-wound grot hero.
Yeah. They're surprisingly...
So it's the Judicators now are shooting into the grots on the right. I think they've done 5 wounds.
Just here. Oh, no. Sorry.
Yeah, there. Yeah. Okay, so he's just whittling those down.
I mean, hitting that block of 60 down so that it's less effective, has less attacks, might be a good option. Obviously, the concussors are going in as well.
Yeah.
You can see how much Richie... It's a good tactic to whether or not you've not made a mistake, but bothering your opponent is Richie is in no way taking the grots from the front.
Yeah, so he's not worried about that concussor charge.
Yeah. That's always a good indication of whether or not the decision is good.
Yeah.
If they start taking them from the front, they're like, okay, I want to extend the charge. I mean, he might not be able to take enough off, but he definitely doesn't seem to be.
Okay, so they're chipping away the Judicators. I suppose it's... Ooh.
Okay, so Richie there has made some amazing saves. Out of 12 dice, he's made 7 6s. There must have Team England dice at this stage. Realistically, I'll have to check.
He is part of Team England, isn't he? Yeah, Richie is. So
He is. Yeah, Richie has been playing for maybe about a year and a half now, competitively Age of Sigmar, and has been doing some pretty solid work. We also saw Richie do one of the only 5-0s with Gits that we've seen in the past year.
yeah, it is. Yeah.
So that's why we wanted to get him on the stream, because we're probably going to see some top table coverage.
Yeah, exactly. And it's an army, as we said, we don't see very often because a lot of people, didn't pick it up early on. But like Richie's doing well with it now. Donald's had some success. It's an interesting army, and so it'd be good to see how it plays out, especially in the hands of a good player like Richie. And hopefully it will encourage more people to get it onto the tabletop, because it's a good book, and there's lots of flexibility in there. I think it's like Grotz. It's very sneaky. You have to. Yep.
You have to play it. So we've just found out that 2 charges were made. A command point was spent to re-roll this that finally got us a 10 and got us in. Another command point was spent on the unit on the right of Concussors, but they rolled a 4, then they rolled a 5, so they did not make it into combat. So we're going to be into... I think we're going to be into the combat phase now, and we're going to watch that unit of Concussors smote Grotz really well, but that'll be about all they'll do. They're definitely not going to kill the unit.
Yes, no, he's done a fair few wounds to them now, but as you say, they're all in range of the Loon Shrine, so they're not going to be running. They're not going to be piling in because of the Concussor's ability as well. Okay, he's used Dead Shouty, which is his general's command ability to, once per game, give them those extra mortal wounds. I guess he's still got enough there within 2 inches. So he's, there's only 10 wounds in a unit of Concussors. They do have a 3-up save, but
They were the elite. Before we saw Sequitors, Formulators I always thought were better because they got the additional +1 to hit against shooting, which meant they were on a 2-up rerolling 1s normally against shooting, but still 3-up rerolling 1s is not bad on Concussors, but the mortal wounds are just going to go through them. But as our table boss has stated, the piling in, won't be able to pile in.
You won't be able to pile in.
So that Dead Shouty ability may be wasted this turn.
Yeah, because if you look at the board there, you can see even with spears in a 2-inch range, he's probably only got about 8 or 9 of those in. Whereas if he could be piling in, he'd probably have 15 or more. So he'd be looking to do a fair few mortal wounds. Maybe even enough to kill one model. I think the damage is in addition to as well. So you'd get the regulars, you get the regular damage from the spears. So if he could pile in, he could probably take out that unit and free himself up. But okay, so yeah, it's exactly what's happened there. Darren has just informed us. So yeah, so yeah, a little bit of a waste from Richie there to use his command ability so early.
And then, so he's killed 13. He already killed 3 or 4 before from shooting. So, there's still plenty to go. There's still 40 to go out of that unit. But reducing the... Oh, okay. So, actually, quite a few have gone through there.
Yeah, he's done a big dent in those, yeah.
So, almost half the unit's down. And now he's going to be fine command point-wise. And then he's going to generate a bunch of command points back. But that's just 2 models holding up the army. And they're 2 models that he can absolutely afford to lose. That's, he would probably not like to, but he's just going to be just holding them off for as long as possible, which is quite scary.
Yes, yeah, and I think like that. Okay. So he's piling in the other unit behind now. He's killed the screen and he's piling in the unit behind.
So just so you guys can see what's happening, the unit in the front was actually a screen, which wasn't the full big unit of 60. It was a unit of 20. Most of which had died apart from like 5 or 6, and now the big unit of Grotz is piling in, so that's the unit of 60 here, so that's the units that pile in. Interesting.
Yeah, but I think that even if their job now in this army, in this matchup, the Concussors, is to just hold up stuff, to just be a nuisance. They're not a scoring unit in 3 places, and so even if he does lose them here 1 or 2, they should still survive at least 1, and then it ties up a couple of those screens. You can teleport out of combat with Hand of Gork, but he's only going to be able to do that on 1 unit. So potentially tying up that screen there, he might have to retreat. It's giving the unit behind less space to move on the board then, and so it's a worthy sacrifice, I think, throwing in some Concussors there to get
I think it's
first turn plans.
I think it's pushed him in quite nicely, realistically, and held that line up. But we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. I'm sure Kieran has a plan going forward. He's not the sort of gamer who just is like, I'm going to just charge. So I think he has a game plan. As you can see from the rest of how the army is actually laid out, you've got defensive lines here, you've got defensive lines here. Like, he definitely is playing a turn. So, and the Grots are about to attack the Concussors back. I don't imagine they're going to die. But it might lose one. If there's enough mortal wounds go through.
He's only scored one hit out of all of those dice he's rolled.
Only the one hit.
Does wound though?
Yeah. So that's. Oh, he got little one damage. A sneaky one grot got a stab in on a leg there, which I always enjoy. I do a Stormcast army. It says what we feel in the chat. If Paladors were made battle line. Paladors are really good, actually. A lot of people don't rate them, but I'm a big fan.
I don't know whether I've ever read their War Scroll. I feel
really,
like I've read every War Scroll, but
really good. And they got
Paladors.
cheaper and cheaper. So yeah.
So in a couple of years' time, they might be worth their points then.
Yeah. So 15 Grots have just attacked into the Concussors as well. They've got Rem 1, so they managed to put another 2 wounds on. So taken. So they're now down.
Oh, yes, that's what his little. It's the Mommet. It does brings the unit's armor down by 1, which is on the little madcap. So he's brought their armor down to 4+. So he's managed to sneak through 3 wounds, I think, there, which is not enough to kill 1. And so they are all going to be tied up there, and that might even include a character in there. So yeah, it's good. I think it's a solid first turn.
Do you think? Because you don't have to. I'm not pushing you to make that storyline. I think it's a little bit unclear right now. I think Richie's got lots of options, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I don't think he can wipe the board just straight off the bat. And a lot of that's going to.
No.
And I would say, for me, the way that you make those big blocks of Gits work really well is you have a large portion of them with all of the buffs be where you want them to be. And currently, they're just having to slowly pile in to do the damage. That said, though, when they get sneaky snuffled, when they get Loon Boss's command ability on them, they're going to be a lot scarier.
Yes, yeah. But
also, as a grown man, I can't believe I just had to say when they get sneaky snuffled.
Yeah, I think it's a good first turn, I think, from Kieran. And like we said, that all those buffs are going to be going on to those Grots. So you take out 13 of those. That's taken out 39 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, doing mortals on 6s, or potentially anyway. So yeah, maybe that's his plan. Maybe he's read Rich's list. He saw that a lot of the damage is going to be coming from those Grots. And he's just decided to take out as many of them as he can first turn. So,
well, the letdown though has to be this guy. Got his star-fated arrow saved on a 6.
Yeah, has he fallen over?
Has he fallen over? Yeah. He's got a cool side motif. Is the Venator fallen over, Darren, or is he just? I thought he's just having a lie down. Apparently,
lie down, yeah.
He's quite tired. That's why 2 star-fated arrows in 2 turns.
He only comes with the star-fated arrow anyway. He's wasted that now, so he's just sitting down.
He's like, oh, I'm a letdown. I'm gonna have a nap, rest up for game 3. Oh, bless him. So, what do you think Richie's play is going to be here?
Well, we can see straight away the Scuttle Tide is going down. He's going to be able to hit the Castellan. So it's mortals. So he rolls 6 dice, and on 5s they do mortal wounds. He's rolled 2 of those, so that's 2 mortals onto the Castellan straight away, which puts him down to 3. And I think he's going to want to cast some more endless spells. If he can take that Castellan off first turn, that's his general. That's
going to be a big deal.
Source of +1 save.
It also only gives him a Venator to score with, right?
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
Oh dear.
So I think Richie's. Yeah, so Rich is gonna want to take as many use as many mortal wounds as he can here from endless spells and spells to. Okay, so he's done 2 more mortals to the Castellan. I'd imagine that's probably from Great Green Spite, which I think does have a 24-inch range. So that guy at the back there, the madcap at the back, could cast that. So he's down to 1 wound now. It's whether he's got anyone within 18, maybe for just a cheeky arcane bolt. I don't think he's got any of the damaging spells from the Gloomspite lore, but he potentially does have another endless spell or 2 that he can throw into that middle guy. As we say, that's the general. If we can take him out now, he's stopped one of his only 3 scoring units, and yeah, obviously Richie is on for the double as well. Then, so with some good rolls, it's a good play in the first turn. He could potentially get all 3 of these heroes off the board, and
I think if I agree. I think though, if Kieran hadn't taken the first turn, he would have maybe been screened out so hard by that big block of even the 40 Gits. Would be able to take up so much board space that he would have really struggled to go through them at any point.
Yeah, exactly. Because even though the Grots would have to deploy 9 inches away from his enemy, that they have to be 9 away from the enemy, but they would have 60 bodies to just zone out all of those drops there. He obviously kept a lot of his army in the sky, and with those 60 Grots, he could have zoned out the whole board and got onto the objectives, made it a real uphill struggle. So I think maybe it was a good call. Okay, so he's failed Hand of Gork, the spell.
Yeah, that's a big cast. So Richie attempted to cast Hand of Gork. That would have allow him to relocate one of his units around the board. I think that's actually a pretty big failure of a cast, realistically, and that's going to affect his choices later on. It's interesting that Scuttle was the first thing he did. And also Geminids has not gone off as well. That would have been very big. Could have done D3 mortal wounds to these 2 units, more than likely he'd have fired it forward here and tried to finally take out that character in the centre.
Who does have 2 wounds left? Castellans do have 6 wounds, I forgot. Sorry.
Yeah, Scuttle is so great. Correct, Rintra. It's crazy good, and it's so hard to screen against, protect yourself from.
It's board wide, isn't it?
Yeah,
so you can put it anywhere near any terrain, anywhere on the board. So it gives a lot of flexibility, and is good for taking out sort of 5-6 wound support characters.
It's just a nightmare to deal with.
Made up. So
so the Malevolent Moon has gone off there. So there's a bit of Scuttle on the screen for you guys. You can see what it's done. That's just going to keep sneaking spiders onto this character. I wish I could draw. I was going to try and draw a spider. And as I went to reach for it, I was like, I can't draw. Hold on. This is now a moment of pride. That's a spider. Yeah, that'll do.
It's close.
It's just going to keep spending. Okay, Benjamin's looking at me like this. No. So, Malevolent Moon being cast, it's going to move and it's going to do some more D3 mortal wounds. I think what he's saying is how many mortal wounds can I do here?
He seems to have focused all of his spells here on this one. So I guess his plan is to guarantee taking out one rather than trying to chip away at both, because he. Oh wow, okay.
So lost a concussor to some more mortal wounds.
This is from the Malevolent Moon. He's done 3 to one unit, 2 to the other, and I guess he's rolling for the Castellan now.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I bet he's so happy about that.
Okay, so the Castellan survived.
O'Delly in the chat said, just slap my screen. I thought there was a bug on it. That's right. I am a pretty good drawer. Thanks. I really appreciate that. Thanks. Also, hello to everyone in the chat. Thanks for joining us. Luvo, Duda Day, Rintra Anise, Velatron, I see you. Odelier, Toon King Tristan, Danhammer CG. Good luck tomorrow. If you guys want to give Danhammer CG a bit of a love in the chat, him and his wife are giving birth tomorrow under induction. I think the child is called Orion after Orion and his hounds.
Oh, wow, yes. I've seen this guy talking in the Kernothi chat this week. Wow. Well, I hope it all goes well. Hope everyone's happy and healthy. So we see... looks like the Castellan's going to survive this round of Magic, which is quite big, I think. Which I think is quite big if he's moved on to moving now, which it looks like he has. What's he moving there? Oh, okay. Quicksilver Swords.
Endless spells.
One more shot at taking off those last 2 wounds. If he can survive here, I think that puts him in a good position, because Grot's shooting is not much to shout home about, and so If he survives and then Kieran wins the double here, with both his characters alive, he scores another 2 points for both of them and puts him on 6. I assume Rich is going to come and try and take this one down here.
So the concussor has died to the Quicksilver swords. So that is crazy. So 2 concussors have died, just a variety of mortal wounds.
Yep.
And the 3 damage they took earlier from Grots. That's the thing, right? They're little, and you think, I'm not really going to take the damage, but it's kind of a who's the fellow who fought Goliath? David. So David, thank you everyone, apart from me. David and Goliath situation, and the Grots really do have the option, the tools to deal with the Stormcast eliteness. I don't think the Stormcast necessarily do have the response.
No, and I think that's big, isn't it? Because it's left those the concussors dying has left those Grots being able to move now, I think, which means that they can come up here, they can charge into this other unit of concussors, they can surround the objective, they can create some space at the back maybe here for a hero to run into. That's unfortunate, I think, for Kieran. Even if you just had one left alive there, just on one wound, just to stop the movement of these guys. Would have been big, but it looks like they're going to get to move up and be
even
on the
just
3-inch
one wound.
charge.
You're right, just that one. Being able to free yourself up in the hero phase is pretty devastating.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is a use for the old arcane bolt, but still, there's always a character sometimes with one wound left, locking you in combat. You arcane bolt him off, and then you're going to be able to free yourself up for this, and this is now going to be pretty big.
Yes,
realistically,
I think so, because it's everybody says it all of the time. Age of Sigmar is a game about movement, and I think more games are won or lost in the movement phase than anything else. So Richie being able to move his Grots here, he's going to get to charge now. The charge is going to give him extra movement. If he rolls big, he can come down here with them. There's lots of things you can do here now with them being free, which he wouldn't have got to do if he had left one on one wound. So it's all those endless spells are making their points back here, I think. So
talking about movement, as we watch this movement happen, and we go to see what Richie might try and how Richie may try and take the game back in his favour. We've got our man Owen, who's been walking around the room, find out about the other hot goss and who may win the Facehammer Grand Tournament 2019. Over to you.
Thank you, Rob. Yes. I've had a little mosey around the room, seeing what's happening. There's an overall theme, I have to admit. Obviously, we're in the early stages. We're only sort of end of turn 1, maybe start of turn 2 for most players. There's still an hour and 50 minutes in the round. But obviously, 3 places of arcane power, 3 places of power. People are giving away the turn and looking to smash back, or they're getting their survivable heroes onto those objectives and looking to hold on. That's the main theme, really. You've got a lot of characters such as Keepers and Vermin Lords just getting on those objectives and looking to hold on, screen, and rack up those points. Obviously, it's consecutive scoring, so if you can get on them early and get those points racking up, 1 point, 2 point, 3 point, you can take the game away from your opponent. No major news, sort of early doors. Like I say, we are only end of turn 1, start of turn 2. But looking through the tables, 80 max Slanesh versus Ben Johnson's Gits. Ben outdropped 80, gave away the turn, and 80's got double keeper in the centre. And now on Ben's turn, he's looking to get those bounders in, get those impact hits, and try and clear them off before they come back. He's obviously got Loomboss and Mangler Squigs, who could sit in the centre there and tank some stuff. But yeah, early doors, but that's the feel on that table. Donal against Alex, the Seraphon with Gotrek against Alex's Skaven. We were hoping for Thanquil Gotrek. We all wanted to see that, but unfortunately, Gotrek's gone right. Thanquil's gone up the centre. I think Alex said to me he just doesn't want to go anywhere near Gotrek, so I think he's going to be quite happy just to leave him on that objective. So it's all going to come down to the battle in the centre and on the right-hand side. They're looking to move up their screens and protect those characters. Ricky and Andy, Fire Slayers versus Stormcast. Again, the Slayers are holding 2 of the 3. There's not a lot on the board for Andy. He's still got his Evos in the sky. They're obviously going to have a big impact when they come down. Hopefully they'll clear more than just a screen of clan rats. But I think it's there's still a lot to play in that game, and when those come down, then they could have a big impact on how that goes. I still think the survivability of the Slayers, now they're sat on those objectives, Ricky's in a good spot. Looking then on to Dan Bradshaw and Tom Maudsley. Again, Dan's got 3 Vermin Lords backed up by the Storm Fiends. Those Vermin Lords are camping, and I know that Tom's just got the double, so he's thrown in. He failed to get Van Hells off, but he threw in some Blade Guys who cleared the screen, and I think this turn he's looking to take a big chunk, hopefully get Van Hells off and take that Vermin Lord off, which would put a big dent in Dan's army. But, you know, that grief, you know, bringing those units back, I don't really know how impactful that's going to be on this mission. He's got a lot of small heroes, so perhaps the Storm Fiends could do the work there. Tuggy's Khorne versus Mike Slanesh. Mike gave away the turn to Tuggy. He had to move up, but the hit back has been brutal. You know, it's all Slanesh across the objectives. Archaon's there, and he's hoping that he's going to be able to start swinging into those keepers and pushing back, maybe get Archaon in the center of the board. Steve Curtis versus Paul Buckler. Steve's looking in a good spot. Obviously, there's all the summoning, but you know, I know that he can summon back some heroes there, Paul. But Steve has all 3, looking in a good control of the board, and he's still got plenty of flayers to take off all the units as they come forward. Toby versus Baz. Toby's put 3 of his 4 Vermin Lords in the center. Obviously, Waystone Pathfinders, they can all come in off the edges, so he's put him in the center to try and lock that down and hold that the whole game. Doesn't really matter if Baz's Wanderers archers are going to come in off the sides and shoot, because they just can't get to the center there. They're going to have to walk forward and fight those Vermin Lords off, which I'm not sure if that's something they can do. Laurie's Dreadwood versus Thomas Founds' Mixed Order. Laurie went first. I think he got all 3. The center and the left look pretty strong. But Thomas has put Marathi and the Forest Dragon straight into the middle there. If he gets the double, then all those Dryads and all that chaff's going to die, and then he's going to be into those heroes. Again, without bringing Alariel, he hasn't got a big survivable hero in the center to hold things up. So I think Thomas is looking all right there. I really want Laurie to get a win here. But yeah, Marathi and the Forest Dragon in the center is a big problem that those hunters are going to have to deal with. JP Slanesh, again, he's holding nicely. Similar to the game between AD and Ben Johnson. You know, Slanesh are up on all of the objectives, and he needs those bounders and he needs those manglers to go in and start taking them off before they all come back again. Finally, James Tinsdale against Luke Morton. No, sorry, it's not Luke Morton. It's James Tinsdale's Deepkin. He's got a Slanesh player. The 3 keepers are on all 3 objectives, but the eels are going in. Eels up inside you. Eels all over the board. It's actually looking at the board now. There's not much left on the table, so that's pretty exciting. I think eels doing what eels do best: zap, 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 zap. So yeah, I think that's it really. I'm having a wonderful time. I know the boys in the booth are. Smiles for miles. Back to them. Let's see what's happening on table 1.
Oh,
wow.
Thank you so much. I mean, the babe on the boards. That's what he is, womping around. And sometimes a little bit of an unsung job, the infield reporter. They go off on their own, they have to liaise, and they have to go and talk to a bunch of wargamers. So actually, no, it's a great job. It's a pleasure. Welcome back to welcome back to battle round. Round 2 of the FaceTime GT 2019. It's me, Rob, and I'm joined by Mr. Benjamin Sava. Hi, Benjamin.
Hello, hello.
And we're in battle round 1 of 3 places of arcane. Oh no, places of arcane power. Sorry. You got Gloomspite Gits played by Richie, famous Richie at this stage, and Kieran with his Stormcast Eternals. Kieran got the option to go first. Took the first turn. Decided to move up onto this centre objective. And something that we kind of neglected to talk about earlier. He's got his Relictor up here at the top, and 10 Retributors. That's right, not evocators, not anything else. Retributors there.
Really regressed right back into the start of Age of Sigmar now. Change host everywhere. There's Retributors. There's we're back to Storm Fiends.
Storm Fiends are in it. Yeah. I can't wait for the Hurricaneums to come back. That's going to be so exciting at that point. So we're with Kieran dropping that unit up there. That's actually a 3rd character he's got. So while he's losing potentially the centre ground, maybe this turn, maybe next, depending. He's got a character who's scoring, which has got him those 2 points. He does have a character up here who's very safe, who's squeezed off the board. And if he can just for a turn hold him off this objective, he might just be going for that 1 point swing later in the game. But the issue is he's going to have to keep fighting over that centre objective, and he doesn't necessarily have loads to do that with.
Yes.
But it's kind of a clever, flank deny.
Yeah.
If you see that later on, I think.
So, yeah, and I think another problem that Rich is going to get, even if he gets the double now, is that he's cast all of his endless spells, and they're all in play here now. So he's only got a couple of wizards, so he can only unbind them. He can only unbind a couple of them, and so he's not going to have much that can threaten this this Relictor over here, because the endless spells don't move that far. His characters only have a few damage and spells, which, one of them, the Great Gloomspite, is a 24-inch range.
So as you can see, we're sorry not to cut you off, Ben, but we are in the charge phase now. Shooting went through and did nothing. So we've seen the Ragnarok do its work and has charged into that unit of Liberators there. Holding the line, doing exactly what they were initially in that starter set release for, just being the babes who hold the line against the evil of spider gods and menacing little grots all alike.
A very efficient objective work there from Darren has showed you that he has claimed that objective straight away, so he's got within 3 there. I think the problem with the screen there is that because of the 9-inch range that they have to deploy away from them, he wasn't able to move far enough forward to stop that.
That's heartbreaking.
3, yeah. So perhaps Kieran would have been better there, probably just deploying something on the board and just running out to zone that off, because the screen is effectively, it's not served its purpose here. And if anything, it's given him an easier target to charge onto.
Although the Liberators may win the fight.
They could, yeah. Lay low the Tyrant.
To be fair, though, the Ragnarok, an 11-inch charge from the Grots here.
Wow.
So you can see them piling in. Now, one thing I would like you to all pay attention to is I got to see Richie play on the tabletop at Crimbobo when we did the coverage there last year with the Sylvaneth. And while not the fastest movement man in the world, he's meticulous, which is what I think it means he's not the quickest. But I would rather someone like him play at the speed he plays with the meticulousness he plays than anyone else in any other fashion.
Yes.
Does that make sense? I was trying to compliment him then.
It was a bit long-winded. I don't know.
He moves his models good.
Movement man.
Yeah.
Is what you called
Movement
him in the
man
video.
is good. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, Darren's just given us a bit of information from the table there, basically just confirming Rob's statement that Richie is playing very meticulously, making sure that he's in range of all his buffs for the next turn, which is something I think that a lot of people do get overexcited about. You roll the 11-inch charge and you think, oh wow, I can go such a far way now, that you forget about the later turns. I see it often in my own games. Especially with Holy Within now, it's really important to make sure you are in range of those buffs, especially if you're playing an army like Richie is now, where your army is designed around getting those buffs onto those units. You don't want to be just piling in 2 or 3 models out of range of those and effectively neutering them for a turn.
You do want to have the Grots who have squigs who snuffle in the ground for truffles to be able to feed them to the other Grots.
Yep.
To do damage, because really, why else would you be playing? That's the reality of this situation. Why wouldn't you want? Where are the sneaky
passing
stuff?
off truffles is a very short range thing in itself. You can't pass truffles a long way, so you got to stay near the guys with the truffles.
Plus, I actually do think that I know there's some charges being made, but there they are, the sneaky snufflers, and effectively, it does look like the entire board. I would say Richie, potentially his entire army, is fighting just because there is a rich vein of truffles. Could this be the truffle wars? Is that why we're here? The Stormcast need those truffles to adorn their armor and potentially do camo, because gold, not particularly good camo in the Mortal Realms.
Truffles are almost worth their weight in gold anyway, aren't they? Very expensive truffles. So the truffle cast.
The truffle cast. So Kieran's new storm host. So another charge. So all the charges. We've heard some news from the table that Richie's using his tape measure excellently. And as Adam Kunis has said in the chat, it is lovely when people are able to use their tape measure to play Warhammer. Often not the case, but sometimes it's so good we have to comment on it. Isn't that not the best right now? But we also saw the same from Maisley. Truffles are pretty good with pasta. Velatron, a big foodie. I wonder if does Stormcast eat?
Yes, I would say yes. They must have to. Yeah. And then if they don't eat for a while, they just die of starvation, get reforged.
They get reforged.
So they don't have to eat. But everybody loves eating. They must do.
They must do. I wonder if there's a Stormcast takeaway.
Somewhere in the mortal realms. There must be. We've been 200 years from the start of AOS now, haven't we? So cities established. They're coming. They're coming this week. The cities of Sigmar.
Cities of Sigmar, the restaurants of Sigmar, seem to be followed up by the cookbook of Sigmar, which I've been waiting.
So we've seen Richie cover a lot of distance over the board here, just from getting out of this combat here with concussors initially. He's managed to get his unit up to here. He's surrounded this objective now. I don't know whether he's going to get any of those models necessarily into that Castellan, who we know is still alive there on his 2 wounds. But that's just showing you how much board coverage you can.
But what he does have to do, which he isn't doing currently, he absolutely, as you're pointing out, I'm just trying to get a shot so it makes it make sense. So we've moved into the combat phase, but I'll just try and finish my point. The character for the Stormcast for Kieran is here, whereas Richie's unit is just. I'll just drop that back a little bit. I'm sorry that there we go. Is here. So even though he might be able to kill his character this turn or get to him, maybe, but I'm not sure that's true. He still has to get this character on to score. Yes. Which means he's got to.
That's a fair distance. That's still 12 inches, so it'd probably take him 2 turns to get there.
And there's a Venator up here. There's Judicators. So there's a load of options. And now that Ragnarok, who has got that bottom left-hand corner here, he has to stay there to keep scoring.
Yes.
So he's going to stay there for the game, unless I'll just double check. Unless there's a character backing him up. I think I see a Madcap actually.
But you can't. It's not. This here. One isn't the objective where you can swap over. Not like in old Duality, you used to be able to put a different hero onto the objective and then take one off. I don't think that you can do that in 3 places of power. So if he wants to continue to claim that objective, he will have to stay there. He won't be able to trade that off for someone else to go off. So that's a big, that's a 240 point model, I think it is. He's going to be sat there doing nothing. It means his spell, the Great Green.
It can't be 240. It's got to be 280.
280.
If it's 240, then
it did come down. Didn't
I'm buying 4 right now because that's just crazy. It's 280. Thank goodness.
280.
Thank goodness.
But still,
ludicrous for a Spider Fang.
Yeah. His spell as well is the -1 to hit bubble within 12 inches. But obviously, Kieran can just stay outside of that now. He's got the Venator there. He can start picking off wounds at range with him. He doesn't need to go into combat. He's taking out a lot of the effectiveness of that model just by having it cap that objective. But, objectives win the games, and so it was the right thing to do. It's his toughest hero. He's got the most wounds.
Well, yeah, that's what I was thinking. He could potentially move this off and then put the Fungoid on the turn after, but then that will reset the clock on him scoring. Yeah, agreed. So we think you might be able to reposition this. It's whether or not he decides he wants to reposition. I think he's going to, and that would make sense. It seems like his tactic, because that character's going there, this character's going there, and then he's going to go forward into here. But even if he doesn't, we've got some big rolls apparently. The Castellan's rolling some.
Oh no!
What? The Castellan's
5 saves from the Castellan. He's rolled 3 on a 2-up save because he buffed himself with his light. Rolled 3 ones on 5 dice, and he has died.
3 ones on 5 dice.
Big, very big.
Oh, that is heartbreaking. Richie was super happy. Did you see the nervousness?
Yeah, he was praying, wasn't
Richie's
he?
one of my favourite players for his animated nature.
Praying to Gork and Mork. And it worked. I mean, it seemed to have worked. 3 dice on 5.
got
3
him
ones
off
on
that
5
objective.
dice.
Because all Kieran needed to do was stay on that objective for another turn, just to put another 2 points on the board, 3 points I think actually, would have put him on there, just for winning the priority roll. So that's pretty
Yes.
big. That's a sad loss. Yeah, that is savage. It's 5 dice, 3 ones. He only needed to make. He'd
Brutal.
taken 3 wounds though, so to be fair, even 2 would have killed him. Still sad.
Yeah, that's sad now. And look at the state of those 2 objectives now. I don't know whether Richie's got a hero in on that middle one this turn. He isn't because it's further back. But both those objectives are swamped by bodies now. It's going to be hard for him to get the Venator on there without charging. And if he charges, he's going to be surrounded by grots, or he's going to be in combat with a big spider. So he's really going to have to sit back there, I think.
Crazy Horse, thank you for the bits donation. I hope you're enjoying it. Who are you rooting for, the Gits or the Stormcast? That's very nice of you. You've all been lovely today. Thank you for joining us for the coverage at the FHGT. I want to say thank you to the team helping me, and also thank you everyone, obviously, who subscribes on Patreon and Twitch. You can help us support to do the show. And it isn't, sometimes, it's not a walk in the park doing it. It's not the easiest. So
It's pretty scary.
thanks for letting us get some jam sandwiches with the money. If you guys would like to press the BIP button on the Twitch overlay, you'll see what the lists are, and you can read them for yourselves. It's on the right-hand top corner. Interesting going into the priority roll. What do you think, Ben?
Yes, I think that Castellan dying there makes it all that more vital for Kieran to get this next priority. I think with the position he's in, if Richie wins this now, he's going to be able to take out the Venator, which is going to leave only the Relictor alive as the scoring unit. As I say, I don't think he's going to have too much that he can get over there to do the damage on the Relictor if Richie does win the priority, but he is going to want to win the objective, the priority here, so he can take out a couple of those smaller heroes who are looking to move forward. If Kieran can win the priority and take out some of his support characters here, then they're, potentially if he can keep their Relictor alive for a turn or two, then there'll be trading points here. They'll be scoring equal points because they both got one character onto the objective turn 1, and so the 1 point that the Castellan did score there in the middle could be the 1 point swing. And so what we're seeing now is the Grots are piling into the Concussors. They had the command ability from the Loom Boss put on them, which has given them the 6 mortal wounds, which I think is doing all the damage here. So I think he's failed a couple of saves, but he's done 6 mortal wounds. So he's has he taken those out now? No, I think there's one left now. So 6 total wounds on them, on the Concussors from the Grots, which, okay, so it has taken out those Concussors. So yeah, that middle objective is looking pretty secure now for Kieran. As I said, don't think he has a character on it at the moment, which is why it's gone back to green, which is neutral. But yeah, look at all of the advantage that Richie has gained there from killing those Concussors that had the Grots pinned in. Just 1 point in it there, I think, or one more wound.
What, literally one? He would have needed to make 2 more saves. That's what it would have been, and he would have kept on the board. But the fact that he didn't is just crazy. That's dice. That's why the game is so fun, I think, a lot of the time. But we'll see coming into the priority roll what we think is going to happen. Thank you for subscribing, Namratine. Did I get that right? Not even close. Naprapratine? What do you reckon? Naprapaten?
I can't even see that. I don't know what.
But yeah, thank you to everyone subscribing or donating bits to the show. Hope you guys have enjoyed 2 weekends now of back-to-back coverage. I'm very excited to... Ben, Jamin, do you have a top pick for the weekend to win? got to be Slanesh, right? Got to be.
It's looking like it at the moment. It's just, which is strange because the LGT last weekend we didn't see any Slanesh in the top 10. I was there with my Stormfiends, which was a list designed specifically to shoot off Slanesh, and I did get drawn against them once, but not nearly as much as I would have hoped. I think if I got 5 Slanesh games, I might have just gone 5-0. It would have been easy. But yeah, Slanesh are dominating this week. There's a lot of them. I think they're 10% of the field. And even though there are a couple of Stormfiends, they have lost their first games here, so that's the hard counter has slipped down to the bottom tables.
Weird,
yeah,
right?
We've got a lot of good players. We've got a lot of good lists. I think it's a little bit too soon to tell yet, but there's definitely, like Ben Curry's been knocked out with his Daughters of Cain already. There's not any other real
play anymore, is he?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he lost to Order Draconis with Daughters of Cain, so I don't know what happened there.
I mean, well, that's what happens if you're not really involved in the game or the community much. You kind of lose track, realistically. But that happens to the best of us.
The meta's changing so much at the moment, isn't it? Like, like even week to week, we're seeing completely different armies in the top 10. So it's.
So if you only know what happened like 2 years ago, you're not going to be relevant. I look forward to playing at Kringlestrand in November. Really glad you'll be covering it. And Namprobratine, I know I've got that wrong again. I'm excited. Swedish, you ready for the other game? You ready to watch at home, Benjamin? To watch
I might even
Swedish?
go. I'm thinking I might even go.
Yeah?
I might get the plane, fly over. Yeah.
Oh hell yeah! That'd be so good.
Yeah.
That'd be so good.
Exactly, yeah.
I got to tell you, Swedish Warhammer is great Warhammer.
I'd love to see that. The Swedish people, the Swedish country, the Swedish women. It's all great. I love Sweden.
Good. Glidlessy. So the Liberators in the bottom right-hand corner have been wiped out. They've lost that unit. The centre is very much the Grots, but there's still loads and loads of shooting to come in here and do the work.
So, yep, those Liberators didn't, unfortunately, lay low the Spider Tyrant on the left. So that's his objective now. He's going to be... he's going to have that secured.
What about the ballsy move, yeah? Hear me out. Relocate 10 Retributors, put them here, 9 each charge, and just smote that Spider. Yeah, there's room.
That's a big play, yeah.
That's room.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the roll. Yeah. That's big. And
I think if he could do that, get that charge. He's got command point in the bag, so he could put the Venator there next to them. He could move the Venator across to give him that 9-inch reroll. And then the Venator charges in, would take the objective with a pile in. Then if you charge both in, hit strike with the Retributors first, kill him, the Venator would still get a pile in, so he could pile in and claim the objective. I think that's a pretty good shout, yeah. And he could potentially shoot off 1 or 2 of the support characters. And so, I think Kieran really wants the priority here. I think Richie is probably a little bit more safe now he's killed the.
Although if Richie does get the turn, he might overextend. He's not the sort of player that does.
No.
But he still could, and he's got to consolidate onto here, and also defend that, while at the same time also defend here, and then he wins the game. But so it's been interesting, right? Because Kieran's put his units out. Well, put his units out and said, "Come and get me, Richie." Richie's responded, and now what might happen is if Richie gets the priority, he might put his units out and then turn around to Kieran and be like, "Come and get me." There is a big.
That's a 400-point unit as well. Although we've seen a lot die in this turn, there is still a big portion of his points tied up in that Retributor unit, and yeah, we don't see them very often, but they hit hard. They're doing 2 mortal wounds on 6s to hit. They've got rend, they've got 2 damage attacks.
I care so much. I agree. I'm with you. I think that there could be loads that could happen here, but time will tell, I think, ladies and gentlemen.
Although I'm rooting for Richie in the game in general, I think it makes a much better game if Kieran wins this next
priority roll. They're just doing it. Oh, they're not doing the cam. That's fine. I only went and no worries.
No, that was Battleshock.
I got too excited.
Still to go.
Alcanol, if anyone wants to see the list, and if you guys could remind anyone in the chat, if you just press the BIP button on the Twitch overlay, you should be able to just see the lists for the players in there. It's our new little thing.
Constantly innovating.
Presumably the spider is -1 to hit. The spider will be -1 to hit. But Soulstar Maces no longer care
About minuses, no. So it's 1 point scored for Gloomspite Gits.
So we're in the priority roll. So they're going to roll in the dice tray. Richie is red. Oh, yeah, after you.
Yep, Richie's red, Kieran's blue.
We're all good.
Let's see. We're looking for red here, people.
Richie's red. Richie is red. It's okay. That's what the overlay says. Richie's red.
Oh, there's a glare on the red dice there, as you can see. So we don't know who won.
So Richie's won. Richie's won.
Richie's won.
Yeah. Richie won the roll. He gets the choice, and he's going to scan the board. That shot does make him look like a giant. Gulliver's Travels.
the bone grinder himself. I think he's going to take it here. I would imagine this is just posturing. Although it's not something I like to do myself very early in the game, is to take the double turn. It's better to sit on it and to control that. Yeah, you can see his knuckles down on the table there. It's obviously a thinking man's pose.
Benjamin, would you take the turn?
I would take the turn in this situation, I think, yeah.
Why?
Because you can strength up your position on both of those two middle objectives. You score 2 points automatically, which puts him up to 3, so puts him 1 point in the lead. I don't think that he's going to have too much power outside of Hand of Gawking a unit over to try and take the Relictor out, but the Relictor's surrounded by Liberators. He's got Retributors there in the pocket to support them, and so I would not overcommit to try and kill that Relictor this turn, but I'd just shore up those two points there. I'd take out the Venator with the endless spells that are in the mid range there, and then he's only got that 1 scoring unit, and because you will control 2 at the end of this turn, then the Relictor, you don't need to worry about killing him this turn. You do that in the following turns. But I think if he gives it away, then he's opening himself up for, as the play you just pointed out, the Retributors coming over, the Venator potentially getting that left-hand side objective, even maybe killing the Spider if the Retributors can get their charge. So I think, although I don't like taking the double going into 2, I think it's probably the better choice here, I think.
Oh,
and he is. Yeah, Darren's just informed us that he's taking
it. Like Rintress says in the chat, bank the points without fear of the hero dying, taking the turn. So I think that's a smart play. Frank over in America says, let's go Richie. So very interesting. He's decided to take it, bank the points. Do you think you're going to see him just... Because he still has to get this character onto here to hold it up. I think what you're going to see is him consolidate around this and then play safe. But he has set himself up to get to be double turned. But I don't think he's too stressed about that, realistically.
No, I think he's still got enough bodies left that he can create multiple layers here of defense in depth and shore up those 2 objectives. I think that he's probably got enough spells or enough characters in range or even enough shooters to take out this Venator here. If he takes out the Venator, then...
Oh, to be fair, if the Venator does go down, that's absolutely okay, because the Venator has just been... He's pretty lazy at this stage. He's not going to lie down. He's not too interested at all. Plus, with Richie taking the turn, it's all about... It's going to be moving those endless spells. So he's going to want to move Scuttletide out the way and deal with that. That's going to be a threat, absolutely. Malevolent Moon is really rapid. That could potentially come over here. And Richie's still got Geminis to cast in his turn. He's also got Pendulum to cast.
Yeah.
So still a variety of spells that can come out of Richie from that turn. Pendulum's not particularly long range, but the other one is.
Yeah, but the Relictor's stuck in one position, isn't he now? He's stuck on that objective, so you point a Pendulum at him, And that says
like Doom. Yeah. Put a pendulum here and be like, in 4 turns, you're dead, son.
yeah, exactly. That real slow scream.
A train coming, but he's coming at 1 mile an hour, and he's like, ah!